Hey everybody, welcome back to the 10K Project. We are the largest community of investors who actively fund Black-owned businesses. And today's session is actually to help entrepreneurs who have a software project or an app that they're thinking of building and developing, and you don't know how to code, you don't even know how to spell the word code. What do you do? Well, 10K Project member and our friend Keno has the response for you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheree. Amazing work what you ladies are doing. You're so valuable and needed in our community, and I'm just so happy to be here to contribute.
Oh, well, we're happy to have you because I think it's all of us kind of working together is how we
Yes,
build Black wealth. And,
yes.
you have a very valuable skill. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do with regards to helping people build their software projects?
Oh, great. So how far back? I'm Jamaican born, so that's the accent you hear. I've been living here in the US way too long, 20 odd years now. And became a US citizen. So, reborn, as I say, here in Providence, Rhode Island. And so America is now my home. I am the CEO and founder of the Mullins Group, and the Mullins Group is a full service software development agency. And so what we present ourselves are as strategic partners. So you can get a developer and you can get a strategic partner that's going to take you from ideation all the way through to development, maintenance, and becoming your CTO development team, so to speak. And just sharing on the question of building software, there's what are the expensive things, right? There's marriage, there's education, there's a house, there's death, there's a car, and there's software. It's in the top 10. It's not cheap, and it's not cheap for a reason. When you think about software, actually, let's break down software some more. Technology itself, it's really art. When you boil it down, it's art. If you look around you, you'll see a picture, or even my wife's an artist, so there's pencil drawings, and then that evolved to paintings, and then there are pictures, and now we have digital communication like Zoom. So technology is really the evolution of art. Technology is a tool that enables us to communicate. If you think about any software platform that you're using, most of it is facilitating communication, from spreadsheets, communicating the numbers, to a Word document, to email, to Zoom, to Facebook. At the core, there's some utility, and often that utility is communication. So when you think about building your software product, first of all, if you're a non-tech individual, stay in your lane. Don't tell your developer, can I use AWS? Should I use this? I want to use this because everyone is using it. Or as one person has said, all the cool developers, all the new developers are using this. Well, some developers will oblige you and charge you more for that cool new thing that you want to use. I say to everyone, do you remember when AWS crashed, when Amazon crashed and half of the internet died?
Mhm.
Exactly. So even the cool tools and the big companies have problems. You'll stop seeing bugs the day Microsoft stops sending patches. So, which is never, it will always happen.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you're building software and you're getting ready to build software, just think about what is the subject matter? What is it, the problem that you're trying to solve? Because it boils down to that. And I often walk clients through the conversation of the business. What's your value proposition? What's your business model canvas? I love Alex Osterwalder's work, value proposition canvas, business model canvas, and think about the business and how is this piece of technology now going to accelerate your business.
Mhm.
An important question to answer is, are you a tech company or are you a company that uses tech? And it really changes the culture of your organization. If you're a pure tech company that's solving this problem, or you are a bank that has really cool software. So in terms of building software, whenever you have that first conversation with your developer, you are not trying to, please don't do this. Don't race to the bottom for the cheapest developer, because you will get what you pay for.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've done it. I've spent thousands of dollars, when I was trying to build our team. Pre-COVID, we were like 5 people. Post-COVID, God was good to us. We're now 50 something people globally.
Mhm.
And you want someone who can architect, who can think strategically with you, someone who can talk about your business and articulate, well, how do I translate your non-tech needs into tech needs? And so if you can have that communication, I'm coming back to communication again. If when you're building your software, understand your space, understand what problem you're solving, and be able to communicate, this is what I'm doing, this is what the problem is going to be solved, or this is how I do it manually, automate that for me, is another way that you can talk about things to your developer. And so stay away, unless you're a highly technical person, stay away from the tech talk. Just talk about the problem space.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that most people probably can't even talk about technology except to say the thingamajig. or I heard about it on Facebook. So,
Right.
but oftentimes I think that at least people that I've encountered, and myself included, we have this idea, right?
Right.
We see a pain point in the world and we think it should be an app, or we think it should be a website or whatever. What are, like, if you had to ask and answer 5 key questions,
Mm-hmm.
in order to determine if this is a software that even should be built, what
Mm-hmm.
are they?
Well, first question, does it exist already? If it exists, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't build it. It just means that, well, when it's time to get funding, it's easy to articulate to your investor what it is that you're building. Because if you're
Mhm.
building something brand spanking new and everybody thinks their baby is brand new, then you have more difficulty in explaining what is this brand new thing. So it's
Yeah.
good if there's somebody who's done something like it, or if you can say, hey, it's like WebMD meets Clubhouse, which is something I'm building for a client. And so you can say those things together so it's easy to explain. So that's the first thing.
Yeah. And can
The
you put a
second,
pin in that?
sure.
I have seen people go into pitch meetings with something that's totally brand new and get shot
Hmm.
down by the investors. Investors don't
Yeah.
like to be pioneers.
Nope.
Um, they like to see that something similar is working in the marketplace and you're doing enough of an incremental change to it versus,
Exactly.
oh, this is totally brand new. That's part of the reason why the government funds SpaceX and Blue Origin. And
Right.
or they
Right.
started funding NASA first, and then
Right.
all
Exactly.
of the other investors come on later on. So yeah, so I know about funding.
No, that is 100% true. And so how can you work around that? Let's say
Yeah.
you're convinced that your thing is brand new, never been done before. One way to articulate it is, well, what are the things in your platform that's already been done? Right?
Mhm.
Find those common threads and say, well, this is going to be my MVP, my minimum viable product. This is going to be the first thing that I'm building. And my differentiator are going to be these cool new things. So
Mhm.
start with the thing that's everybody knows, and then you add on top of that, the other piece that you're going to build.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're going back to the question. So like 5 questions you want to ask yourself. What's question number 2?
So question number 2, who's using the platform? Which is really, really important, because when you understand the different users, I don't mean their titles or their job titles. I mean, when they log into the software, this is their role, then it narrows your scope, because you don't care if the CEO likes this platform, or whoever demographic that you think will like the software, if they're not using the software.
Mhm.
Well, asterisk, unless they're paying for it. You have to, the person who's paying for it has to like it, right? So that's the second question: who is using it, and being able to list and articulate who the different users are. The third question is, what are the distinct features, or we call them user stories, that
Mhm.
everyone is going to do? So here's what I mean by this. This part can get really boring as well. So let's say admins, right? What do admins do? Admins create an account. So a user story or feature would be something as simple and as boring as, as an admin, I want to be able to create new user accounts. That's a very singular feature. It's
Mhm.
one thing. If your developer put that in production, it will add value to your organization, right? It will accomplish something to move it forward, and break down the features in that thing. So the question, or the third question, is, what are the features? And you can start thinking about it like a story. So the application opens up, right? The opening the box. What's the first thing that one person has to do? Then start listing those user stories. Then the next person, what will they do? Then start listing those user stories. And so just going through that will take you the most time, I think. listing those user stories. The fourth question would be, what data are you capturing? Now, no one really knows the data that Facebook is capturing until you really need to know that Facebook is capturing all this stuff about you that you really, so for example, and just a little pin right here, Sheree, for all you folks who are not security conscious, who are still using birthdays or the same password everywhere, stop it. There are cool tools out there like LastPass and tools like that you can use to generate multiple passwords, so remember one and so forth. So tools like Facebook and so forth, they're capturing data about you that can be used to reverse engineer your password, right? Because folks use their dog or somebody's name and the color and social engineering. But anyway, understanding the data that you're capturing is really important, because if you get your data wrong, then it's going to be really expensive changes later on. Because when developers are building your platform, they look at, well, they're architecting your data model, and different things in your data are related. So for example, it's an office management software. In my office management software, there are people and there are rooms, and how that's architected is very specific. So if you're going to say, hey, I need to manage projectors and things like that, it's something that your developer wants to know upfront. Now, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to say it's a string variable or start naming variable types. You just say, I have an office, I have people, I have rooms, I have projectors, and those need to be managed. And those real things become data. Actually, that's a good way to think about data, is whatever is in the real world, that's what I have to translate into my software. So what am I, question 4? So question 5.
Yeah, you are question 4. Yeah. So number 5 is where you are now.
So question 5 is, what are those screens that you think, and I say emphasize, you think are necessary for your platform? So I know who's using it. I know the different features. I know the data that is being collected. Now, how is that data being represented on the screen? And often folks think that my platform has to look new and fancy, but remember Craigslist?
Oh boy,
it still exists.
It still exists. Yeah, people still use it. The guy
People
must be a gazillionaire. I mean,
like a trillionaire. It still exists, and competitors have come that look cooler and nicer, but still
people still use Craigslist. Yeah.
Remember Google? I mean, there's a website called Wayback Machine. So if you look at Wayback Machine, you can actually see what a website looked like years ago. Google hasn't changed much. It's a box in the center of a screen, and you type stuff. So, when you think about screens, less is more. You look like a young Sherry, so you don't remember the dancing baby. Remember dancing baby on the screen?
No, but I'm not that young. No? But I don't remember that. No.
So, okay, you remember Netscape when Netscape came out?
I remember Netscape.
All right.
Boy, yeah.
So in those days of everybody was building their own HTML, they used to, the big thing, they'll have a dancing baby on the site from the Ally McBeal show.
Okay. Okay, I remember Alan Bill, but I don't remember the dancing baby.
Oh my God. So, never mind then.
I know. So I'm not that young. I remember going to the store to get an AOL disc. I distinctly remember you would go to the different retail stores and they would have the kiosk of the AOL disc, and then that was back in the day. So
look how far we've come in such a short time, right?
We've come very, very far. And, with every new technology, it takes less and less time for it to be, I'll say perfected in quotes and then go mainstream. So that's why the metaverse being the next big thing, blockchain, crypto, like these things are taking much less time to actually become mainstream. But let's go back then to software. So once a person has asked and answered those 5 questions, like internally, then what should they do next? Is it time to contact somebody who understands coding? Like what do you do?
Okay, so make sure you put it on paper. So don't just keep it in your head, right? Put it on paper. and then determine your budget. Like, how are you going to pay for this?
Mhm.
And now this is the one of, when my company just started and we just had to do what we had to do to put food on the table. The number one question I was asked is, it's a great product. I want you to join my team and do this for equity, and
Mm.
people, I'll tell you this, my number one brand of toilet paper is called equity because it's worthless.
Mhm.
The software is a small component of your platform. It's you. You are the star. Without you, the company will never take off. You
Yeah.
can have a bad product idea and a great team or a great individual, and you'll get funded. And you can have a great product idea and you're just not selling it because you're not in it, and you don't get funded. So it's really all about you. But that budget, the next thing is determine the budget. Once you have done that, I think it makes sense to determine what's your personality type.
Okay.
This is kind of weird, but if you understand yourself, then you'll be able to communicate with others because your development team is going to be global. Because that's just the nature of how things are now. We have teams our team is in the US, Jamaica, Nigeria, Canada, and a small footprint in India, and we're still growing. So there are all these multiple cultures. But if I didn't understand as a leader of the organization who I am and what ticks me off, what annoys me,
Yeah.
my breaking point,
I
then
I
how
have an
would I be able
annoying.
to
Yeah, I mean,
exactly
my thing is, I send you something and like people not using common sense with regards to like, when you click this button, does it really go to the page that it's supposed to go? I don't know.
exactly
I mean, I think that there are a lot of order takers out there and not a lot of people who actually sit back and think and like, let me review my work before I send it to the client. But,
right,
I want to
right.
go back
And
to the
also,
budget question though.
oh
I'm
sure.
sorry, you want to say something
No,
else?
I was going to say about the culture piece one more is that what you also have to understand about understanding yourself is understanding the culture of the person you're working with.
Hmm.
Because some cultures we may say, well, why are you telling me yes all the time? But some cultures, it's confrontation is not a good thing. And so you have to be able to ask the question, not just does it work, but show me it working and
Hmm.
show me what you thought that I meant. So going
Hmm.
that extra mile. Yeah, but go back, budget.
Yeah, so for budget, a lot, well, I always am concerned with telling you only have $2,000 and you're like, this is a $50,000 thing you just put on my desk, right? And then you not coming back and saying, Cherie, no, this is a $50,000 thing. You just say no to the project. So oftentimes as an entrepreneur, we'll say, I don't know what the budget is. You tell me, because we don't know what the budget is. So
Right.
what's your response to that type of
Right.
scenario?
So, in terms of I don't know what the budget is, I guess then that question is what
Mhm.
can you afford? Now, there's a bank. You don't want to tell a developer this is what I can afford because they're going to meet you,
Use it
meet you
all.
where you are, right?
Yeah.
They're going to use it
And then I
all.
want to
So,
lowball you if I'm giving the first price.
exactly, so typically what we do in our engagements is we made a rule. I used to do this and it was painful. When I did it, my wife told me to stop. Is haggle price, but as an organization, we don't haggle price at all. We'll negotiate terms. We'll give you a long time to pay, but we never haggle price. And because we understand our value as an organization,
Mhm.
and we understand that if you can get it cheaper, God bless you, go get it cheaper. Actually, we actually do that with some of our clients. Like, you really don't need us. You can use this off the shelf tool and accomplish your goal without spending all this money. So
Mhm.
we when a client comes to us, we are sure that they need to build software. um, so if you're with a developer that's haggling price, then it might not be a good sign unless it's a freelancer. Now, a freelancer who is doing contract gigs and it's just them, then they're a lot more flexible than if you're working with a company that has
Mhm.
overhead. And the larger the company, the chances are the larger the overhead, right? Doesn't mean they're super expensive. Another thing with price, if your developer is on which coast, it will determine the price. So West Coast developers tend to be a bit more expensive than East Coast developers because the cost of living is higher.
Yeah.
So if your developer is from a demographic where it's expensive, then chances are you're going to pay a higher price. So in terms of budget, if you can't afford, don't let the budget stop you from pursuing your dream. I guess is the bottom line. If you
Okay.
have something that you believe it, don't let your budget stop you. Here's what you do. I'm back. I think in movies, Chris Rock, I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Mhm.
How much can I get for, can I get a rib? Can you just pour the drink in my hand? Like, if you say, I want to build this thing, it's a great thing, it's gonna cost $50,000, but you only have $2,000. All right, what can I get for $2,000?
Mhm.
And how do I move to the next step? Start there.
Mhm.
Because at least, when you have your software documented, you have your designs. If that's the cheapest thing to start with, what do all the screens look like? You can present that to an investor and saying, this is where I'm going. This is what next, but this is all I have right now.
Yeah.
So never let the money stop you. Or if it's 50,000, it's like, hey, can I pay you $1,000 a month for as long as it takes? And if you've sold your idea to the developer in the same way that you'll sell it to the investor, then some companies, and we've done it a lot of times where we've extended payments up to a year for a client because this is all she could afford at the time, and we believed in her. We believe that you're going to get it done. You're going to get us paid, and
Mhm.
so we're going to start working on the project for you.
Great, great. Is there anything else that people should think of with regards to the process of, doing a software project? How long it takes, how much effort, all the going back and forth, or is it something that lickety split is done?
No, sometimes you see something on a screen and you say, can't you just do that? And it's never a just do that. So
Mhm.
whenever a development team gives you an estimate, double it. Just automatically double it, right? That way there'll be no surprises on your part. If your development team if you're paying them time and materials, so I'm paying you per hour, then I think, and this is why we don't do this anymore, except for our more advanced clients, that does them a disservice. It does
Mhm.
everyone a disservice. Here's why. Um, if a team is good, really, really good, then they're always going to be they're going to cost less because they're fast. If a team is really, really bad, they're going to cost you more. But which one would you prefer?
Mhm.
So having a development team give you, this is how long it's going to take and this is how much it's going to cost, and if it takes longer, it's on us. So have your team say that, put that in writing. If it takes longer than the 2 months, we're going to eat that cost. We're not going to come and say, oh, by the way, there's this hidden fee that you didn't know about. So as long as you don't change the scope, the features and everything, then your cost shouldn't change. In terms of how long a project takes, no one can guess that for certain. I've been writing, my first program was at age 11. So, tell my age, 30 something years, I've been, tapping keyboards. And I've never been able to estimate a project to a science how many hours it will take, but ballpark, really good at ballpark. So I'll give you a
Mhm.
range of how long it will take, and different projects, different complexities, it will just be different. So it's hard to say your project without going through a set of requirements, how long it's going to take. But every developer, based on the team, how they gel, how many people are working, how many projects they have working on in parallel, that will determine how long your specific project will take. But I'll tell you this, there's some things that, project management terms you should know. So waterfall, really bad, unless your project can kill someone, right? If your software is medical or, military or something like that. Other than that, waterfall is a bad thing. You want to ask and just Google it if you don't know what it is, agile project management.
Mhm.
So what that would mean is that, gone are the days where, hey, Mrs. Developer, I need this project built. She goes away and she comes back 3 months later. Is this it? And you're like, not quite, right? With agile, you're saying, this is what I want built. They go away for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks tops. And they're like, hey, we did a piece of it. Is this correct? And then you get to say yes or no, but you haven't lost time if it's a no. The other thing that your development team should always, always have for you is that you should be able to see who is working on your project, what state that feature is. Remember those same features you listed, what state of development that feature is. And even the developers work, like ugly, the sausage is being built. You should be able to see that from day one.
Mhm.
Nothing should be hidden from you. Your developer, or your development company, or your freelancer should be transparent to a fault.
Yeah. So intellectual property. I've got this great idea. I think you're going to steal it from me. I get that
Yeah,
call all the time.
yeah,
NDAs, is this something that people should be concerned about? The
yeah.
theft of ideas. What are your thoughts with regards to that?
That's a big one, Sherry. I teach entrepreneurship as well, and I tell my students this: if you have an idea and it's been a year or 2 years and you haven't built it, it deserves to be stolen, because all good ideas come from God, and you have been gifted to birth this idea, and you sat on it. So someone needs to birth it. It has to come out. So it deserves to be stolen. So that's the first thing. So now we're in my technology hat. Always send an NDA. You can go to Rocket Lawyer. I only name drop Rocket Lawyer because it's a Black-owned company. I didn't know that, but that's cool to know.
Oh, that is good to know. Okay.
Yeah, right. And Calendly as well.
Calendly, I know about $3 billion.
Calendly as well.
Congratulations, Sam.
Yeah. And so always send an NDA, something simple. But technology can, with software, you can always write around an IP. You can always code around it, but just do your due diligence. At least it looks like you know what you're doing. So always send an NDA. There's this other gotcha in contracts. You always want to ask who owns the code, because far too often I've seen companies will say, we own the code and you have to pay us a licensing fee, or we own this piece of the code and you have to pay a licensing fee. You always, if it's something super special and proprietary, then sure, that might be an argument for that. But most times, you should own your code. You should be able to say bye to your development team and get everything and move to another shop. It should not be this long, nasty divorce if you have to leave your development team. So where IP is concerned, just ensure that you own your code, that your NDA or your contract says that anything that's new, that is regarding, pertaining to my project that was built, that it's mine. It's my IP, not yours. So it's just kind of like an
Mhm.
employer-employee type relationship, even though they're a contractor. But you're saying all new stuff pertaining to this, it's all mine. And you also want to know, your team, where's your team? And not that you're going to check on everyone, but the next question will be, if your team member disappears, what protocols do you have in place to protect my IP?
Yeah.
And that's really important. As our company grew, and most of our developers are currently in Nigeria, and we got asked the question, well, what are you going to do if somebody walks away with your platform? And I thought, that's a really good question. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to open an office in Lagos, Nigeria. And so we'll hire people directly. And that solves the problem, because now we have eyeballs on our contractors. I
Mhm.
know not every team can do that, but we want to grow our team, financially, as well as grow our company. So it made sense for us strategically. But yeah, I think hopefully that was helpful in terms of
No,
IP
no, it
protection.
was. It
Yeah, I have
was.
to say the fine print, right? I'm not an attorney, so please consult your attorney before you take my
Con-
advice.
Consult your attorney. Yes,
Consult
yes.
your attorney. Yeah.
Yeah. The one final thing that I will mention as a business plan writer and former bookkeeper is also know your business model as well. You know,
Yes.
with one of the 5 questions, I'll add question number 6, and it just popped in my head. How is this thing going to make money? you know
Exactly.
and there are multiple business models that are out there for software, so you can do your own research with regards to that. If people want to contact you, they want to know more, they have questions, how do they do that?
Sure. So you can check out our website, themullingsgroup.com. So TheMullings group.com. There is a Mullings group. Long story, Joe Mullings, he lives in Florida. I call him Cousin Joe. But you see his picture, you'll know we're not related at all. So we're themullingsgroup.com, or you can shoot us an email, info at themullingsgroup.com. So info at themullingsgroup.com.
Perfect. All right, everybody, it's time for you to go and create that software. Thank you, Keno, for
Absolutely.
being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sherry. And you ladies continue doing the great work that you're doing.
Thanks, we appreciate it.